Well, hey, howdy and hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Crosspoint Calamities. We're here this weekend in Emmet, Arkansas. I thought they told us we was going to Amityville, and I got a little bit scared. But we're in Emmet, Arkansas, just outside of Hope, and we are at New Liberty Baptist Church. The church was built around 1890 when Brian was about 3 or 4 years old, and it was originally being built as a schoolhouse. But during the building of the building, the schools consolidated and they no longer needed the building, so the community got the building and moved it over here and made a church. And it's a pretty little church, it's a pretty little community, and we're going to have some fun here today. So far, we have not had any calamities this weekend. This is our first date for the weekend, but so far, we're all right. Kevin don't have much of a voice, but Kevin never did have much of a voice anyway, so we're here this weekend. We're going to have a good time. Since we have not had any calamities, I just thought I would bring a little bit of the Word to you this morning. So if you'll turn in your Bibles to the book of turn to the second book in the Bible, and you can see it says, and there were at that time Moses abiding in his field, keeping watch over his flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord appeared to him, and the glory of the Lord shone round about him, and he was so afraid. And the angel said unto Moses, I want you to go to Pharaoh and tell him, let my people go. So Moses loaded up his donkey, and he started out of town. And before he could get out of town, his donkey done fell into the well. Now, Moses remembered the story that Jimmy Duty had told him when they was just kids. So he started throwing dirt up in that well, and the donkey got out of the well, and they carried on. Well, he got to Pharaoh, and once he got to the land of Pharaoh, he went and found the king. He told that king, King, the Lord has said, let my people go. He said, I ain't going to do it. So he went back again, and he said, King, the Lord has said, let my people go. He said, I ain't going to do it. He did it over and over and over again. And the Lord sent a bunch of famines into the land. Finally, the king done had enough. He said, all right, let the people go. So they started running out, and they grabbed everything they could get, and they started trying to get away. Well, once they was out of town, the king thought about it, and he said, I don't think I want to let them go. So he started running after them, got all his army, and they started running after them. Well, the children of Egypt got into the Red Sea. They got up there, and they said, now what are we going to do? Well, Moses asked the Lord, what are we going to do? The Lord said, build a boat. So they started building a big old boat. And they started loading the people in there 2 by 2. Once they got all the people in there, they started getting all the animals in there 2 by 2. They said, wait a minute, we only got one billy goat. Where's the other billy goat? Well, about that time, here comes Shadrach, Meshach, and the billy goat, and they got on the boat. So they got on the boat, and they closed the door, and they floating up on the water for 40 years. All of a sudden, there's a big old bump. Moses said, Lord, what is that? He said, that's right, you're on top of Mount where we at. And, well, they sat up on top of the mountain for a long time. The water was still covering the earth, and they didn't know what to do, so they started sending out birds to see if they could find some land. Well, finally, a dove come back with an olive twig in his mouth, and so they thought that they could get on out. Well, they got out of the boat. They started replenishing the land and working the ground and growing crops. And one day, in the cool of the evening, Moses was walking down in the garden, and he's going for a walk through the valley, and he saw something up ahead, and he said, what is that? So he came a little closer, and it was a battle going on, a battle against good and evil. It was King David against a Philistine. You know what a Philistine is? It's a giant. And King David walked up to that giant, and he said, silver and gold have I none, but such as I have I give unto thee. And he cut off his ear. What Moses didn't understand, why did he cut off his ear? He picked it up and he put it back on. Well, Moses got out of the way, and King David come up and popped him with a little stone about that big, and then he cut off his head. He turned to Moses, he said, who are you? He said, I am Moses. He said, from whence thou cometh? Which is Bible talk, from where you come from. And he turned around, he said, you see that big old boat up on top of that mountain? He said, yeah, I do. Moses said, the Lord told me to build that boat, and that's where I come from. He said, the Lord of of all told you build that boat? He said, yes, sir, he sure did. He said, well, what do you call it? He said, that's the Ark of the Cover Tent. And so they figured it must be holy. King David said, that must be a holy ark. He said, no, it holds water pretty good. It kept us afloat for 40 years. He said, well, it is holy unto the Lord. And they went and got it, and they took it, and they put it in the temple. And it remained in the temple for many, many hundreds of years. And then it was disappeared. Nobody knew where it was at until around 1979, when an archaeologist named Indiana Jones found it. And it's been in a museum ever since. Well, there's just a little bit of a history lesson from the church to the Ark of the Cover Tent. And that's all we got for calamities for this weekend. Y'all keep tuned, and we'll let you know what happens after this weekend.